Many of you have been patiently waiting for this teardown. This is a Ford 4.6 liter 2-valve V8, and it's out of a 2006 Ford F150. Now, this is not out of any regular old F150. This is out of a truck that we torture tested. Yes, the majority of engines that I've torn down on this channel were blown up by accident or negligence. This was blown up on purpose. Now, disclaimer here, several months ago, I flew down to Florida to hang out with my good buddy Rainman Ray at his shop alongside Bearded Ford Tech and Powerstroke Tech Talk. And we concocted a plan to break an already broken Ford 4.6 liter 2-valve V8 in this F150. Now, this engine was already bad. We didn't ruin anything of value besides the fact that the truck was a total pile of junk. It was not worth fixing. We decided to see what Ford's most common engine of the mid-2000s could handle, and today we're going to tear this all the way down to see the ramifications of our actions. A little backstory for context. This is out of a truck that was vandalized. Some nefarious individual drained the engine oil out in the middle of the night, and when the owner tried to drive it to work the next day, it didn't make it. Once it was towed to Ray's shop, he realized the problem, added oil, started it up, and realized that it was hurt. It made terrible noises, it ran rough, but most importantly, the oil was filled with glitter. Tons of metal shavings in the oil. At that point, the engine was condemned. The truck was no longer a reliable means of transportation, and it wasn't worth putting an engine in. It was rough, it was a work truck, the front end had been wrecked. So the owner didn't want the truck anymore. At that point, we all formed the idea of a torture test. We wanted to test every system of the truck, and that's what we did. We tested the brakes.
It's getting red, it's heating up. $850.
We tested the suspension.
Okay, yeah. We
have it's sprung a leak.
So, yeah, not a big deal.
You can hear the water going into the tire. Bad stuff's happening.
We tested the transmission, specifically the parking pawl. And we really tested the engine. We put it through its paces, lots of high RPM load. And we made sure it stayed hydrated the entire time. Which is probably why this engine is completely locked up. I had to use an open-end wrench to get all the torque converter bolts off so I could get it mounted to the stand. So I'm curious to see what kind of damage is inside of this engine, and that's what we're going to find out today. We're going to tear this all the way down. Now, if you'd like to buy any of the parts out of this engine, you can email us. I'll leave our email in the video description. Last time I said an engine was locked up, I was able to turn it because it was mounted to a stand, something to hold it still. So I'm going to go through the same test now just to see if I'm going to make myself mad. I don't think it's going to turn over. That was the bolt getting tighter. No, maybe it's, that bolt is coming out. So no, it is still locked up. Next, we'll pull the coils and the spark plugs. We left them loose. Oh, I need to clean that one out. Uh-oh. Oh, that's bad. I need to blow that out. I got all the debris out of the way. Well, it's kind of a fight to get these out because of the debris in the spark plug tubes, but they don't look too bad. I don't see any bent straps, smashed electrodes. There's a huge gap. Now keep in mind, we rebuilt these with a wire wheel, of course. And they look the same as they did when we pulled them out. I think runtime after we put them back in was just a few minutes, so nothing crazy here. Now I'd like to pull the intake manifold, but before I can do that, there's a few things to do, like this EGR tube. It is one piece from the manifold all the way to the valve, which is bolted to the upper intake elbow. So I'm going to go ahead and spray some penetrator on this in the hopes that we can get this off in one piece. I'm going to give this the old go here. We'll see. Let's see if we can turn this. Whoa there. That sounds pretty deafening. All right, this is probably not going to work, but I'm going to try it anyway. Oh, yeah. I don't like to break the stuff. Excellent. Next, we'll get the EGR valve unbolted. Ooh, that's unhappy. It's fine. So tight. I hope it doesn't snap off.
Oh yeah, we're getting it.
Ah, it's got some bonus threads. Those are bad. All right, the egger valve's off. We've got a coolant hose. There, I got that off without having to cut anything. Now let's pull the intake manifold. Ha! We'll just crack and loose my hand first. All right, let's go ahead and lift this intake off. All right. Nope, let's get blue. But blue always wins. Looking down the intake ports, there's some signs of moisture in there. Not terrible. Everything looks like it's been pretty clean. There's a little bit of debris, probably from pulling the intake manifold if I were to guess. Same thing on this side. Nothing wild. Next, let's peel off the right-hand valve cover. What's hiding behind this? See, get an idea of what kind of maintenance this thing saw. That's not good. For everyone that said we ruined a good engine, no. So it wasn't just what happened to this engine at the end of its life, it is what happened over its life. And clearly oil changes were not one of those consistent, nice maintenance things that were done on a regular basis. Lots of sludge. There's some moisture and rust in here, which I just can't imagine how that got in there. Got some stalactites and stalagmites on the timing chain. Lots of rust here. Looks pretty bad. All right, now I'm going to seize the moment and take the right exhaust manifold off, if I can. That broke. That one is broken. So I just have one rounded off one. No problem. Success. Now we'll start on the left-hand valve cover, but I need to get the dipstick tube out of the way. Look at that. I'm sure this is going to look a lot better. It doesn't. Okay, this side does look better because there's no rust on the cam lobes, but that's the only reason why it looks better. It's still got plenty of sludge. This person did not change their oil on time or use any kind of good oil. This was minimalist activities. Let's go ahead and get this exhaust manifold out of the way. That one's broken. I need an extension for that one. Next, we're going to remove the water pump pulley. Shh. I said shh. And the water pump. Gotta be gentle. Just gonna walk it out. Oh, that's gross. But the water pump is actually pretty decent. That's the weep hole right there. There's not really any signs of leakage. It is a Ford factory, not an aftermarket one. This is a nice unit. We gotta keep this, put this somewhere safe. Oh. Let's get this harmonic balancer off. Got my fixture in place. See if this will do the job. Time to strip the timing cover. See if we can get this timing cover off. We're going to do it the wrong way by prying on the cam gear. Is it really wrong if it works? Oh boy. Wow. It's like there was water. Oh no. There's carnage in the pan. So this is not iron, just so you guys know. This is, a lot of this is supposed to be aluminum. That's an aluminum cylinder head, but look how varnished everything is. The guides look to be in condition. They're in condition. Not good though. Lots of rust on the chain. Look at all the sludge at the timing chain tensioner. That's good for it. The real story here though, let's look in there. Look at the carnage. We've got chunks of metal. Can't really see much beyond that, but it's hurt. Let's go ahead and peel the chain off. We're going to start with the tensioners. Seems like it's under some force. It's fine. Yeah, that doesn't seem too bad. Oh, that's the oil feed. That is not too good. Let's get the other one off. Oh, well, it's leaking some emulsified water out of it. That's gross. Let's go ahead and pull the rails off. And these, there's so much schmoo in here. Wow. Get the trigger wheel off. And, ooh, that's crunchy feeling. If I need to turn that. This is gonna be a test to see if the cams actually rotate. Oh, they do, but they feel pretty terrible. There's one chain that's rusty. See if we can get this one off. Oh, this cam turns. So we'll do this so that we can get the chain off that way. And these poor chains, unfortunately, sacrificial. So these are oil pressure fed chain tensioners. And look at all the junk in there. Obviously some water got into the crankcase. The rails, these rails don't look too bad. Clearly they were dry or lack of lubrication. But the worst part, look how worn that is. That's like a Ford thing from way back, apparently. That happened to the 5-liter AJs as well. These rails were starting to come apart, mainly from lack of lubrication. These are no good. I post 1 or 2 videos a week as time permits, but many of you want to see more and some smaller updates on my project fleet. And you can find more videos on my wife's channel, Car Wife Life. I'll leave a link in the video description. So we're going to cam the cam cramps loose to pull the camshaft. So much sludge. Watch out. I did not see that one coming. You guys probably did. It's about as bad as you'd expect. A little bit of rust on a roller, but they spin nice. These all look okay. This one's got some grooves in it here. A little bit there, but not a lot of forbidden glitter. I don't really see a lot of suspended metal anywhere, not that you could tell with all of the varnish. Let's go look at the cam and the caps. Aside from the sheer volume of rust and moisture, which we expected to see that once we got the cam out, because you could see all this before, some pretty healthy grooves. They're pretty bad, especially here. These are really deep. And likewise, the caps seem more damaged because of the valve spring tension. So these are pretty chewed up. Before I get the head bolts, I must remove this coolant pipe. I think I can just do that. Let's crack these head bolts loose. Moment of truth. First reveal, let's yank this head off. Huh. That's unexpected. There's some debris, but the head gasket looks okay. Man, we did a good job cleaning this thing up. So the first thing I noticed is how sparkling clean the pistons look. They look pretty nice, and that's because they had water steam clean them. Because this engine was hot, we introduced water, which softens up all the carbon and lifts the carbon off the pistons. So they're clean, but what you can see, some pretty deep grooving on the cylinder walls. They're not terrible. It's pretty bad on this direction, which that's not great. I can't see everything. Let's go look at that cylinder head. The head actually looks really good. I think this head might be salvageable because while there is some scoring on the cam caps, that's the worst of it, and I would call it moderate at the worst. This thing goes through the parts washer, would look pretty decent, I think. Time for the science on the right bank. No disconnecting rod. Time to cam the cam cramps loose on this head. Nope. So this head looks better, mainly because it has less moisture in it. But the journals aren't really grooved up. This one, or no, this one here, that one's got a singular groove in it, like a piece of debris got caught in there. But the rest of these look pretty decent. And as such, the cam shows some wear. I think it is better than the other bank. I wonder what the disparity is about. The caps, again, some grooves. I feel like a lot of these engines look like that no matter how nice they are. Time to crack these head bolts loose. Let's go ahead and lift the head. Well, I really expected these to be all rusted up, but they're not. Head gasket looks all right. It's got a bunch of pistons in it. They're still present. It's got a bunch of debris. I'm going to go ahead and blow that out now. Well, all the pistons are evenly cleaned. Cylinder walls, a little bit of rust at the very top. Not terrible. You can't really see a whole lot. There's definitely some vertical wear. Ooh, yeah, that's pretty bad. I wonder why that is. Let's go look at the cylinder head. The head looks pretty good. Obviously, it's been cleaned, steam cleaned by the water that we introduced. But I don't see any signs that a piston came and struck the cylinder head, which is really good. Time for left bank science. No broken rods. All right, next let's get the oil filter off of this thing. We may cut this thing open. Oh my God, I got it off with my hands. Oh, that's not oil. That's gross. Next we'll remove the oil filter housing. And it's gone. Let's go ahead and unbolt the oil pan. I have the engine tilted at an angle so it's easier to get to all the bolts. That mount's in good shape. I'll leave one on that side. What do we have in here? Well, there's chunks. Oh, that's not good. Well, there's some tapioca pudding in here. Lots of sparkly stuff up here. But that's kind of concerning. That also looks important. Let's see what else we got. We got lots of large piston nuggets. Uh-oh. That, ladies and gentlemen, that's a wrist pin circlip. More piston. So here's the forbidden glitter, and it's a powdery substance, which is usually not bearing material. There's a lot of debris. There's more chunks in the sump part of the pan. But here's what we pulled out. It's hard to tell what this stuff is, but I can tell you this is all piston. I'm going to go get a can of brake clean and clean this stuff off. So here's what we've got. It's a bunch of piston nuggets and one circlip. So obviously we had a slight malfunction inside the crankcase.
No idea how that happened.
All right, let's turn this thing over and see what kind of carnage we're dealing with. Well, we got some, that's not coolant. A bunch of dust, dirt. We got some more. Oh, that's a mess. That's really nasty looking. Someone ran water in this. So what's going on in here? Oh, before I show you all the bad, let's go ahead and get the sump tube removed and the oil pump removed. Let's see what we can get out of the pickup screen. There are some chunky monkeys in there. Ah, there we go. Is that it? That can't be it. So there's some chunks of stuff in here. This is all metal. And it's lightweight. Feels like aluminum probably. Not a really good kind of material to keep in your pickup tube. Let's go ahead and tear down the oil pump. Ooh, gray matter. So that emulsified coolant, we like to call it oil on this channel because it's half oil, half water. Did this no favors. Let me go ahead and get this sprayed off so we can take a look. It's actually not so bad, guys. It's really not too terrible. Not a ton of wear. A little bit on the side, but I think this is perfectly fine. All right, here's the moment you guys have been waiting for. That's real bad. There's a bunch of rust. That's real bad. Really bad. Hard to tell what that looks like. This part of the engine doesn't seem to be quite as bad, but clearly this part tried to compress some liquid in that we tried to give it some water. It was thirsty, but apparently it didn't want what we gave it. The inside of this just looks atrocious overall. But either way, you can see at the base of this, there's a bunch of marks for making contact. Look at the contact it made on that counterweight, because that's what comes around, hits and wears away at the bottom of the piston. Wow. I think the reason this engine won't turn over is strictly because it has a few bent rods at least. So given that, taking the main caps loose is not really going to put us in a better situation. So I think the next course of action is to remove the rods and pistons we can get to, which in this case, these two, this one, and maybe one of the bent ones up there. So let's get out what we can get out. I know that means we're going to start in the back, and that's way less hygienic. It is okay. This one time it is okay. That is very stuck. Oh. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, I was wrong. We have some bearing damage, it appears. Let's get the proper tooling to handle this. At least I believe we have. Oh, that is unhappy. So that's a spun rod bearing. Maybe two. Yeah, both of those rod bearings spun. Oh boy, we are in for a treat. Let's do the right thing here. All right. I don't want to launch this thing at the ground and break it. Uh-oh. Oh, wow. That is very on there. Well, these bearings came loose. Let's see if we can't get... All right. All right, since that definitely had bearing damage, I'm going to try to turn this thing over. I don't suspect this is going to work, but let's see. It's worth a shot, I think. No, this is not going to work. I'm going to break that bolt off in the snout of the crank. So what I am going to do at this point, I am going to loosen all of the main cap bolts, and we're going to take the side bolts out, and then we'll take these bolts and get those loose and see if we can get this to turn over. I have my doubts, but we must try. Let's see if that did a thing for us. No. Let's see if I can use my little bar. I think we should call this bar tiny. That seems unsafe. And it didn't work either. So at this point, I can't really get the crank to turn over by the snout of the crank or the bolt. Here's where our spun bearing was. The oiling hole is completely plugged up. This bearing is friction welded. The rest of this, I'm going to be able to get this one unbolted. This one's a maybe. That one unbolted, and I can probably get these unbolted. I feel like I should probably start with these, but they are going to be rather difficult. I think this one will be the easiest. So we're going to go ahead and start cranking on these two, see what we can do. This is going to be a terrible vantage point, and I would like to apologize in advance. Oh boy, this is going to be rough. We're getting it. Let's see if we can get our power ratchet in there. Oh, I think we're getting it. It's out. Well, that part of it is. Oh, we're moving. This one's coming out. Whoops. That's probably not good. With one rod out of the way, well, one bent one out of the way, let's see if we can't turn this over. We're gonna just hope here. No. Not even in the relative closeness of coming loose. So this is the current situation. You can see it's real bad. This rod's bent. Can't really tell if any of the others are bent. If they are bent, it's not a ton, not like the ones that we've seen already. But I'm not going to rule it out. But something is keeping this thing from turning. The fact that this is in the middle of the bore leads me to think that it's not this, which means that we're going to probably have to unbolt some of these. I can get this one and this one pretty easily. And I can actually kind of wiggle this one back and forth just a hair. So it tells me that this one is not locked up on the crank. All right, let's see if we can't get this one loose. Oh yeah, those bearings have come apart. So there you can see that that rod bearing has spun. It's chunking out to its neighbor. We're going to go ahead and push that rod out, and then we're just going to jump right into this one back as well. Just to get those two out of the way, give us the best chance of turning things over, because this one is going to be very difficult, and that one is going to be borderline impossible. Do we have bearing damage here? Yes, we sure do. Well, that one is spun. Oh, that's rough. Now that we've removed a little bit more rotational resistance, let's hope. No. No! I'm going to break off that bolt if I try any harder. Let's try blue. We don't need to move it very far. I just need to get it to move a little bit, because we've got all of the easy ones out. Yeah, this is going to be rough. Now, we're going to need Tiny. Where's Tiny at? Ah, yeah. That's doing it. I'm going to see if I can get it into a position where I can get more than one out. Let's see. This allows me to get this one, which doesn't help me a ton. Oh, wow. The crankshaft is against the piston. I'll show you that in just a second. We get this a little further. So when rods bend, they get in the way of the counterbalance on the crankshaft, and there we go. That's the crankshaft eating into the pistons. You can see it chipped away. Look at that damage. How are you guys liking this close-up action? You guys give me some feedback on this. Is this better? At this point, I can easily get to this one and one other, so let's go ahead and get this one loose. That one was not spun, but still in terrible condition. At some point, we're going to be able to turn this crank over by this bolt. Is that now? Yes. All right, look at that. We fixed it. We can get to the remaining 4 bolts. Well, that one came off just fine. This one, though, that one, not spun. Oh.
Pepperonis.
What the heck? Look at the amount of sludge there. Jeez Louise. Ooh, that one does not want to come out. Blue. I'm gonna rotate the crank so I have easier access to do. Oh, that moves nice now. There's nothing wrong with this. That just popped right out. That was nice. So I need to get this rear main plate out of the way. I guess I'll come out with the crank. See if we can use the crank to pry bar to do that. Oh yeah, look at that. That was the ticket. Oh, it does come out nice. That makes my job a little easier. So here's the crankshaft, and you can see those are spun, those are friction welded, spun, friction welded, spun. That is wild damage considering everything else is going on in here. Let's see if we can get these off. No, that is not the tool for that. Oh, wow. Not the tool. There's an impressive amount of damage here. Don't go over there. A larger screwdriver. Wow. Got it. Whew. That's bad. Let's get a better screwdriver for this. I think we can do it now. This might be one with the crank. We broke it. Nope, not that one. This one still needs Hammer time. Holy crap. Ah! Watch out. All right, here we go. Last one. That one didn't put up as much of a fight. I shouldn't have said a single thing. Whoop. A little bit, just a smidge of transfer. Let's start out at the rod bearings. So that's the best looking bearing. Maybe that is. If you notice the edge of this, really ungood. These were spun. That's not good. Or maybe these were spun. Or maybe they're both spun. No, I don't think those were spun. Those are a little bit better. All of the bearings, with the exception of the first two cylinders, which ironically were the bent rod cylinders, are in absolutely awful condition. I mean, just wrecked, chunking out, throwing debris everywhere. These are trashed. The main bearings fared a little better, but not great. You can see, look at the damage there. Not good at all. Still better than the rod bearings. The crankshaft, well, first off, Ford crankshafts, with very few exceptions, are very cheap new. So most of them used have zero value and they're scrap metal. But even if this were an expensive one, which it isn't, this one is scrap metal at best. First two journals look good. That doesn't look too terrible, and it goes downhill. Look at all the aluminum transfer. Now, I have a sneaking suspicion that a lot of this would clean up with some acid. Now, we have used acid for simply spun bearings. I say simply, like not run very long once there was an issue. And they've come out all right on some of the BMW cranks. But that is no guarantee, and they still need to be polished afterwards. But the other problem is, since this was a hydro-locked engine as well, let me see if we can rotate this easily. This struck the pistons. They actually ate the pistons down. I don't know that it actually damaged it, but anytime you have an engine that hydro-locks, you can twist a crankshaft. So they definitely need to be checked. This one's going to be checked when it gets thrown overhand. No, probably underhand into the scrap bin. Now for the rods and pistons. These were surprising to me because there's only two bent rods, and we probably put about 15 gallons of water through this engine. We just couldn't get it in the engine fast enough to do more damage. That was the biggest problem. It was Ray's hose. Ray needs a new hose. If anybody's out there and is around Ray's shop, drop off a hose at his shop because his hose has seen better days. First two rods would make awesome shifters or door handles. These will be available for purchase. Unfortunately, I was hoping for a full set of 8 bent rods, but I think this is still pretty cool. You can see the piston was just eaten away by the crankshaft, smashed into pulverized. When these get shorter, bad stuff happens. Now, what's also interesting is I was digging around through the parts, and look at this. Look what I found. It's a perfect fit. We could take this back together and no one would notice. But when you bend a rod, it does a ton of cylinder wall damage, or tons of skirt damage. And you can see the counterweight, that's from hitting the bottom of the piston. Surprised it didn't do any more damage than that. Then we go to the next cylinders, and look how dark these are. Now, a lot of this is from heat at the bottom, but a lot of this is also from the varnish. This engine was not taken care of. The owner of this truck, or whoever owned it before that guy, or both of them, or all of them, nobody changed the oil on time, and then nobody used quality oil. That's probably a decent piston, but there aren't very many more because they usually look like this. That is trashed. I've checked these rods over every way to Sunday, and short of taking them apart and stacking them on top of each other, if they are bent, it's not a lot. That one might have a little twist to it. But the piston looks okay. That one, yikes. Look at the damage there. This was a pretty cool experiment. Now, if I had gotten this engine as a core and I tore it down, this would be the most confusing teardown if I had no backstory. How can it do all of this damage? Well, the video proves it. Inside of the block, there's no real damage here outside of the corrosion. Cylinder walls, man. I'm glad all that rust was on the bottom side and not the top, because that would have made getting that piston out a ton of fun. Overall, not terrible. I think this was the bank with the decent looking pistons. Let's go to the other bank. Definitely the bank with the bad pistons. And this could be a situation where the pistons swelled. It's really hard to say what all of the failures were because there were so many. So the oil filter, it's definitely some sparkles in there, but it's not very latent because I think it's been washed down. There's another big sliver. For the record, I do not condone mechanical violence. I get no joy out of blowing things up for the sake of blowing them up, unless, of course, they are already damaged beyond feasible repair, and that's where this engine was. Throughout this teardown, we saw many signs that whoever took care of this engine simply did not care. It had huge spark plug gap, it had tap water in the cooling system, they clearly went a long time between oil changes, and they likely used a cheap oil because they certainly used a cheap oil filter. The motor mounts were blown out of it. I could keep going, but just know that the condition of the truck mirrored the condition of this engine even before we decided to blow it up. And we tried to create the most amount of carnage possible. Sure, we could have drained the engine oil and the engine would have locked up in a couple of minutes. We all know that scenario. We've seen it over and over again on this channel, but that doesn't always create gigantic holes and smashed rods. A lot of times it just spins bearings. We wanted to blow it up to create the most amount of damage, and I say we failed. I mean, yeah, we definitely blew the engine up, but for those of you that have watched this channel for quite some time, if you can recollect some of the worst carnage you've seen on this channel, some of the horrendously blown up engines that you've seen come apart, and think about the fact that the majority of those, sure, there's going to be an exception, but the majority of those were unintentional, not deliberately blown up. Sure, negligence had a huge part in those, but intention was not to blow up their engine most of the time, and I feel like that level of carnage was so much worse than 4 guys that know how vehicles work could have created in this. I feel like we failed. Now, I understand that this is still entertaining and it was still fun to do. I had a great time. That part was not a failure, but we couldn't even throw a rod. We couldn't even get it to throw a rod. 4 guys that work on cars for a living couldn't get it to blow up any further. And I think that's because this is a Ford 4.6 liter 2-valve V8. It's not because this engine can't throw a rod. It's because these engines are robust. They're reliable. They go 500, 600,000 miles regularly with average maintenance. The only thing you need to do to keep a 4.6 2-valve running is keep oil and coolant in it and gas in the tank. Intake manifold on occasion. But regardless of that, these are very reliable engines. These are great engines. They're not the most powerful, and they certainly aren't that fuel efficient. I think they will get like 18 to 20 depending on what they're in. But regardless of that, these are really good engines, and I feel like we failed trying to make it blow up. This was the first 2-valve 4.6 I've torn down on this channel, and that's because most of the core engines that are 4.6 2-valves simply are replaced because they burn too much oil. I know other things happen to them, timing chain related failures, running out of oil, spinning bearings, and yes, we could have blown this thing up right away with draining the oil and pegging the limiter. That would have certainly done it, but we've seen that over and over again on this channel. We wanted to create a lot of damage, and this was the worst we could do. Now, I do think a lot of the bearings were damaged before we even got our hands on this because of that oil starvation situation. And then once water was introduced, not only could it not compress the water we put down its gullet, but it started getting into the crankcase, mixing with the oil. It's not a great lubricant, and it allowed the rest of the bearings to come apart. And at the final moments of this engine, it seized because it spun so many bearings. That's what happened to this engine. And I gotta say, I'm pretty impressed. So I have a ton of mementos to sell. I mean, the heads might be salvageable, they might be serviceable. The intake has no real value. The rest of this is either going to end up on somebody's desk or in my scrap bin. So if you'd like to buy anything from this engine, I'm going to leave our email in the video description. You can also go to Importapart.com and peruse our inventory. I've been uploading our parts cars as often as I can. As always, I love all the comments, all the feedback, and even the criticism. I love it all, and I'll catch you on the next one.